Welcome to this webinar looking into emotionally based school avoidance, known as EBSA, developed by the Wakefield Educational Psychology Service. My name is David Mann. I'm a senior educational psychologist in Wakefield, and I'll be taking you through the material today. This webinar is designed to be accessed at a time convenient to you, so please feel free to pause or come back to different sections as needed. Throughout this webinar, we will be making references and links to the Wakefield EBSA guidance document for schools, settings and practitioners. This document provides a summary of the theory and principles underpinning EBSA, as well as a framework for intervention following an assess, plan, do, review model. This also includes a comprehensive collection of resources, as well as details of organisations and services that may be involved in the support of a child or young person experiencing EBSA. This document has already been shared with all schools, settings and services in the Wakefield district. Whilst it's not essential to have read or have used the materials from the guidance document, it may be helpful to have a copy available as we progress through the steps of the intervention today. For further inquiries, please contact the Wakefield Educational Psychology Service on the details provided. The aims of this session are for you to have a greater understanding of EBSA and the impact it has on children and young people, their families and schools, but also an understanding of how you can begin to effectively support a child or young person you feel is experiencing EBSA and be able to use the materials and resources within the Wakefield guidance document to put in place appropriate intervention via a model of assess, plan, do, review. As well as EBSA, there may be other terms that you have heard in relation to this topic, such as anxiety-based school avoidance, emotionally based school refusal, or anxiety-based non-attendance. They all share the same perspective. Children and young people do not attend school due to emotional factors, that there may be long periods away from school. EBSA is different from physical illness or truancy. Often EBSA cases want to attend school, but they are highly anxious and experience significant distress about attending school. The language matters. The words we use reflect the lens through which we see the behaviour. It's an EBSA rather than a refusal. Patterns may form. They may be more relaxed at holidays or at weekends. But the difficulties are far-reaching, often have a long-term impact, such as reduced aspirations, poor emotional regulation, mental health difficulties, limited progress, or reduced employment opportunities in the future. The causes are quite varied. There are several factors, usually complex and interlinked. Each child and situation is unique, and intervention must be child-centered and tailored to the individual. Factors often related to areas such as the young person, family, and school environment must also be taken into account. Transition between key stages are often linked to EBSA. Anxiety is a significant component of EBSA. We can't exclude the impact of COVID either. Before we begin, it might be an idea to pause and reflect on these questions presented to you. How much do you already know? What experience you might have of EBSA, and how you might rate your level of confidence in supporting young people and their families in this area. Researchers in this area have identified that school non-attendance usually serves one of four functions. Firstly, to avoid uncomfortable feelings. Secondly, to avoid stressful situations. Thirdly, reducing separation anxiety or meeting a need for attention from significant others. And lastly, to pursue tangible reinforcers outside of school. Children and young people experiencing EBSA can fall into a negative cycle. Difficult feelings about school, their anxiety can then feed negative thoughts about school and their ability to cope, which are often harder to disregard or challenge. This then influences one's actions, their avoidance, which then leads to an immediate payoff, such as a reduction of the anxiety, which can lead to further school avoidance as a mechanism to reduce these feelings. The impact of this destructive cycle further compounds the situation. A child or young person may fall behind with their work, they may lose friendships or increase their social isolation, which further increases feelings of anxiety about school, steering them to more pleasurable and safer experiences in the home or in the community, decreasing their motivation to attend or engage with school. These young people generally want to be at school, but are not able to attend due to often multiple, complex and interlinked emotional factors. What's needed is a flexible, tailored and child-centered approach, with perseverance and remaining hopeful to achieve those positive outcomes. Following on from the previous slide, remaining hopeful, researchers have identified the following factors are all key to positive outcomes with those experiencing EBSA. Early intervention, partnership working with clear goals and outcomes, whilst understanding the underlying needs and working flexibly with the child, young person and their family. Any EBSA-based intervention must be guided by these aims: having an understanding of the functions of the child or young person's behaviours, taking a child-centred and flexible approach to intervention, supporting the young person to understand the emotions they experience and begin to effectively manage these, but also establish a sense of connectedness and belonging in the school community. The following sections will take us through the EBSA-based intervention following the Assess, Plan, Do review process and make reference to the Wakefield guidance document along the way. As is the case with many interventions, the initial stage begins with an holistic assessment. During the initial stages of understanding a young person displaying school-avoidant behaviours, we must also add to our knowledge of risk factors, early identification and assessment procedures. By building on our existing strategies to spend time listening to and showing you value the young person's experience will enable you to develop a deep appreciation of their needs. By drawing on the experience of school staff and parents, carers, and communicating their understanding of some of the issues throughout the system, you will begin to build up a rich picture of the interrelated aspects. A range of well-documented factors place some children at a higher risk of EBSA. These are usually present alongside other changes in circumstance, and it is important to bear in mind the interactions between home, school, and the wider influences on the child. Schools having an awareness of these risk factors can be an important preventative strategy. It's at this stage I make reference to the Wakefield guidance document, as we provide a range of resources to support with this stage of intervention. On this slide, we've identified the sections and appendices for each of these, and these include the early indicators of EBSA, the risk factors table, push and pull factors, school wellbeing card sorts, and gaining the voice of the child, the voice of the family, and the voice of school staff. When looking to obtain pupil voice, consider who might be best placed for this task. Who has a good relationship with the young person, or consider who would they identify as having a good relationship with in school. Children are likely to find it difficult to talk about why school is hard, so we need to be mindful of this, but also reassuring that we're there to help. We can use the tools that are most appropriate. We don't need to use all of them, just enough to support formulation. Consider the use of visuals and drawing to support some children in obtaining their views and allowing them to express their views clearly. Building a collaborative partnership with parents is essential to bring about positive outcomes for young people experiencing EBSA. These may be difficult conversations to have. Parents and carers may have their own feelings about school based on their own lived experiences, so we need to bear this in mind. Maintain an open and regular contact is essential. Appendix 6 in the guidance document provides a prompt sheet with example questions that may help with this stage. Another piece in the puzzle is the staff voice. This will allow us to build a full picture of the current situation for a child or young person. Collect information from all school staff who work closely with them. This may involve seeking information from subject teachers, but also support staff in school. This allows for strengths and difficulties across different subjects or in different environments to be acknowledged. Valuable information may come from each staff member that may help to identify triggers and strategies for the young person's anxieties. Now we're moving on to the plan stage. Effective planning takes into account the views of the child and young person, their family, and draws upon information from adults working with the young person. Formulation refers to bringing together all the information that's been gathered to present a shared understanding of the issues by summarizing the needs, the problems, and the strengths. There's an opportunity here to stand in the young person's shoes and see the issue from their perspective. Co-development of an action plan and a support plan for the young person with the young person and their family provides an optimistic outlook. There'll be times when a young person may find that the plan is more challenging, such as at the start of its implementation, or following a weekend, a school holiday, or a period of illness. If the child doesn't carry out the agreed actions one day, start again the next day with an optimistic outlook, it might be necessary to move back a step in the plan so as to build greater confidence. Resources and activities to use at this stage of the plan can be found in appendices 8 through 10 in the Wakefield EBSA guidance document. These include formulation tools and prompt questions, return to school action plan and return to school support plan, as well as guidance and information to consider a temporary partial timetable to support a reintegration. This will require careful management and is not appropriate in all cases. Once the assess process has occurred, a return to school action plan should be produced. This should include information from the assess section, such as the information gathered to tailor to the needs of the young person, and the do section, which we'll come on to soon, which include interventions and strategies to provide support for a young person in school, and this allows for strengths and difficulties across different subjects or in different environments to be acknowledged. The table presented here indicates the essential features of an effective return to school action plan and includes co-production, personalization, and a focus on reintegration. In addition to the action plan, it will be useful to work with the young person on their own support plan. This will build on and break down the action plan, helping the young person to see what can be done by themselves, their family, and by school to support them. It will include agreed information about key adults in school, any timetable changes, strategies to help reduce any anxieties, how friends and family can help, but also locate safe places in school. All staff must be aware of the young person's difficulties and agreements that are made in the support plan. A pen portrait or EBSA pupil profile can be used to support with this. Now moving into the do stage. You should now have an idea of what the causes and factors involved in the problem are for the young person. The purpose of this stage of the intervention is to deliver intervention, teaching strategies to support the young person to learn about anxiety and different ways to manage these themselves, but also tailor an approach that works well with your setting and the specific young person you're working with, adjusting and reviewing as necessary. You may decide to frame the intervention at this stage around the 4 functions of the EBSA behaviour. However, some of these suggestions are suitable across all or many of the different functions. Working with the child and family to create a Monday morning plan which provides the best possible transition into school, and if the child is able to attend school on a Monday, they are more likely to be successful at attending school later in the week. So it's vital to consider the extra steps that could be taken by the student, the family, and the school to enable the child to attend. Many families start the plan on the Sunday evening to support the child in getting a good night's sleep. A warm, friendly, and well-planned arrival and welcome to school for the anxious child's first contact is very important. Support the child so that they experience a sense of welcome and belonging whenever they attend. Consider what they might have already experienced that morning before reaching the school entrance. Frontline staff such as the reception team may be the first faces the child sees, so ensure these staff are involved in the support plan and understand the importance of their role. Work with the child and the family to ensure there is a plan in place for dropping off and arrival into school, considering who will meet the child, what activities they'll engage in, and how the transition to school can be eased. Involve the child, talk to them about the start of the school day could be changed for them to support their worries and anxieties. These are some examples of interventions to support learning about and managing anxiety. For example, an anxiety scale or thermometer, body map, cognitive behavioral therapeutic approaches such as the thoughts, feelings, and action cycle are all presented in appendices 11 through 12 in the Wakefield EBSA guidance. Using an anxiety thermometer or scale can help the young person to start to make links between their emotions and environmental or contextual triggers. Consider the physical environment, times of the day, and specific lessons and activities. Using a map of the school building can also be helpful when exploring the impact of physical environment on their anxiety. Emotion regulation tools, for example, the incredible 5-point scale, developing a signal for when a child feels overwhelmed, such as a traffic light system, and supporting them to recognize how their body feels before they become overwhelmed. Developing a calm kit or mindful activities are also helpful and presented in appendices 11 through 12 in the Wakefield guidance document. Another key component of EBSA intervention is about building confidence and self-esteem, as well as value and a sense of belonging in school for children and young people. Some of the strategies and examples are presented for you here and can be found in appendices 11 through 12 in the Wakefield EBSA guidance document. Finally, something many of you will be familiar is that of solution-focused approaches. For example, the miracle question. Solution-focused approaches are concerned with the future and the young person's aspirations. A path, as shown in this image, planning alternative tomorrows with hope, provides a structured, solution-oriented framework to be used with children, young people, and adults to identify those aspirations and work towards agreed goals. By following the approaches outlined so far, to help with both the identification and early support of children at risk of EBSA, it's hoped that many children and young people will be supported to return to full-time school before the school avoidance behaviour becomes entrenched. In some cases, where the young person continues to struggle to attend school over a long period, will require a more flexible approach to support and intervention. Where possible, it's important to maintain links and a sense of connection and belonging with the child and family. This can be achieved through these actions highlighted on this slide, such as home visits, regular contact with the child or young person and with staff, allowing the young person to visit the school in a safe way. Now we come to the review stage of the intervention. The purpose of this stage is to review the action and support plan at regular intervals with input from the young person, parents, and key staff and other professionals. It's important to celebrate the success and progress made toward the outcomes and shared goals, but also to consider new information or changes to the situation or outcomes and plan next steps. Plans may need maintaining or adapting to incorporate new outcomes or actions. It may be tempting to skip a stage or increase expectations of attendance. However, this may not be helpful and could impact on the sense of trust the young person has with the school. Decide whether there needs to be consultation or referral to other services and professionals at this stage. Here we can see the EBSA support cycle, found on page 25 in the Wakefield guidance. It's helpful to have realistic expectations. School avoidance is unlikely to be fixed overnight or by a single person. Celebrate the successes no matter how small and look to make those gradual changes if the issue seems stuck. Reviewing your approaches at all levels as regularly as you are able to will help you to revise and develop your support. You may have made changes to whole school approaches, so a check-in with your audit might be advisable at this stage. Looking with the young person at their anxiety levels, assessed through scaling or other assessment method, could be a rewarding way of measuring progress, or simply a pointer to adapt a plan or intervention. Differences in responses on individual items on an assessment measure before and after intervention may indicate positive change. Public Health England produced guidance for school leaders to promote emotional health and well-being in schools based around 8 principles. These have been adapted and extended in the diagram presented here to include EBSA-specific ideas for leadership and management to include within their whole school approach. Some aspects to think about include: can we create an environment where no EBSA exists? Taking a whole school systemic approach to EBSA, considering how the factors relate to each other and viewing the problem as between the factors rather than inside the child, means that responsibility does not lie with one part of the whole. A focus on mental health and emotional well-being, but also a focus on relationships, curiosity, connection and belonging, a trauma-informed approach. This may require additional staff training, anxiety-related, all staff to have an awareness or understanding of EBSA and the risk factors and strategies to support this, identification of an EBSA lead, perhaps someone in SLT, but also all staff to be aware of this person as well. There may need to be environmental considerations, such as safe spaces in school that may be unique and different to each child. Identifying needs and monitoring impact will need to be continuous. Wellbeing scales and measures for children and young people can also be found in Appendix 4 of the Wakefield Guidance. There are many agencies and surveys, both locally and nationally, that are there to support settings and children and young people with regards to anxiety or in relation to EBSA. These services are also included in the Wakefield Guidance. In review then, I'd like you to consider if this webinar has achieved these initial aims. Hopefully, you'll be able to go away with a greater understanding of EBSA and the impact it has on children and young people, their families and schools, but also an understanding of how you can begin to effectively support a young person you feel is experiencing EBSA and be able to use the materials and resources within the Wakefield Guidance document to put in place appropriate intervention via a model of assess, plan, do review. Finally, thank you for your time, and if you have any further questions or queries related to EBSA, please do get in touch with the Educational Psychology Service on the contact details presented here.